It's our stories. Welcome to a world where real stories sounds like a movie script.
You ever get one of those messages that make your whole world stop for a second? Like you're standing in your kitchen, cutting vegetables, thinking about absolutely nothing. And then, bam, your phone buzzes, and suddenly the ground feels different. That's how it happened to me. It was a regular Tuesday evening. I'd just gotten back from work, threw on a hoodie, started cooking something simple. Pasta with chicken, nothing fancy. Lena, my girlfriend, was supposed to come home in about an hour. We'd been together for almost 2 years. For the past 12 months, we'd lived together in my apartment. Things had felt a little off lately, like she was drifting, not in a dramatic way, just quietly distant. You know that feeling when someone's body is there, but their mind isn't? That's what it felt like, but I didn't panic. I figured it was stress, or maybe she just needed some air. Then my phone lit up. It was a text from her, and when I opened it, I swear, for a few seconds, I couldn't even process what I was reading. She said she needed space, that things felt complicated, that she didn't want me to contact her for a while, and she'd reach out when she was ready. Just like that, no fight. No warning, no conversation. Just, I need space. It's such a simple phrase, but the silence that follows it is deafening. I remember standing there in the kitchen, knife still in my hand, sauce simmering, and just staring at those words. It felt surreal. I kept reading the message, trying to find something between the lines. Some sign that she was hurting too, or that this wasn't as bad as it sounded. But it was all so clean, cold, final. My first instinct was to reach out, to ask what happened, but she'd made it clear, no contact. So I just stood there, breathing in the smell of burnt pasta, feeling this mix of confusion and disbelief. I wanted to be respectful. I didn't want to be that guy, the clingy one who can't give space. So I wrote back something simple, told her I understood, told her to take whatever time she needed. And that was it. Then came the silence. Hours turned into days. The apartment felt emptier by the minute. Her toothbrush was still beside mine in the bathroom. Her perfume lingered in the air. The bed felt too big. Every sound echoed differently, like the walls knew she was gone. At first, I told myself this was temporary, that she'd call, that this was just some emotional reset. Deep down, I could feel something slipping away. By the third day, I was exhausted, not from lack of sleep, but from constantly thinking, wondering what I'd done wrong. I scrolled through old messages, photos, memories. Every smile, every moment that now felt like a lie. It's a strange kind of torture, how your brain tries to rewrite the past once something breaks. Then, one evening, while I was half watching Netflix just to fill the silence, I made the mistake of checking Instagram. There it was, a bright photo. Sunlight, beach, cocktails, and Lena, smiling, glowing, wearing that blue sundress I bought her last summer. But what made my chest tighten wasn't just seeing her happy. It was who was beside her. Her ex. The same guy she swore was ancient history. The one she cried about months before we met. The one she said she'd never go back to. They looked comfortable. Too comfortable. The caption under the photo said something like, "Island escape with my favorite person." And right there, everything inside me went still. You know that moment when your body wants to scream, but your mind just shuts down instead? That's what it felt like. Cold, numb, she told me she needed space. But what she really meant was that she needed freedom. Freedom to go on vacation with her ex while I sat at home trying not to text her. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there in that dimly lit apartment, phone in hand, and felt this sharp, almost surgical clarity. I'd been respecting her boundaries, honoring her request for space, while she was sipping cocktails with another guy under the sun. That was the moment I realized something important. Sometimes, closure doesn't come from a conversation. It comes from acceptance and action. So, the next morning I decided to take back control. First thing I did was call a locksmith. By 10:30 a.m., the locks were changed. The guy didn't ask many questions, though I could tell he knew the look. Heartbreak. He handed me 2 new keys, and as the metal touched my palm, it felt like reclaiming something I didn't even realize I'd lost. Peace. After that, I sat down at my kitchen table, coffee steaming beside me, and stared out the window for a long time. The city was loud and indifferent, and for once, I felt strangely aligned with it. Then I thought about the car. 6 months earlier, Lena's old car had completely died. She was stressed. Her job in marketing required driving to clients, and without a car, she was losing work. She didn't have good credit, and she was panicking. I wanted to help. That's what you do when you love someone, right? You step in, so I bought her a car, a used Mazda CX-5. Paid about 18 grand for it. Clean, solid, reliable. I told her she could use it and just send me payments monthly. Everything, the loan, the title, the insurance, was in my name. It wasn't a gift. It was trust. But trust only works when both people play fair. So that morning, after the locks were changed, I drove to the dealership with the spare key. I told them I wanted to sell. The manager checked the title, saw my name, and nodded. They gave me a quote, 16.5, pending inspection. I signed the initial paperwork and left. When I got home, the empty parking space outside the building felt symbolic. A blank spot where something used to be. The more I looked at it, the lighter I felt. I hadn't realized how much weight I'd been carrying until I started letting go. I didn't touch any of her stuff inside the apartment. Her clothes, her books, her skincare bottles, I left them. I wasn't trying to erase her. I was just done being her safety net. It hurt. Of course it did. Losing someone isn't easy, even when they betray your trust. But for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe again. Lena had wanted space, and I'd given it to her. Fully, completely, maybe even more than she'd expected. The next few days were eerily quiet. No calls, no texts, just silence. I went to work, went to the gym, cooked, slept, and slowly my thoughts became clearer. Every time I felt that familiar ache of missing her, I remembered that photo, her smiling next to her ex. Like the last 2 years of our life together had meant nothing. That memory became my anchor. About a week later, she returned. I knew it before she even showed up. Mutual friends were posting back from paradise stories. I figured she'd come straight to the apartment, expecting everything to be as she'd left it. So I waited. Tuesday night, around 9, I was sitting on the couch. Lights low, some show playing in the background. Then I heard the sound, the metallic jingle of keys at the door. It was strange how familiar it felt, how instantly it triggered that knot in my chest. Then came the scraping sound, the key turning, not fitting, trying again, faster this time. And finally, the banging. I didn't move right away. I just sat there, letting the sound echo through the apartment, feeling a strange mix of sadness and calm. Eventually, I stood up and went to the door. When I opened it, just a little, I saw her standing there, suitcase beside her, skin tanned from the sun, hair tied loosely. She looked beautiful in that effortless way she always did, but her expression was sharp, frustrated. For a second, neither of us spoke. The air between us felt heavy, full of all the words we hadn't said. She looked at the lock, at me, then back again, confusion turning to anger. Her mouth moved, but I barely heard the words. I already knew what she was asking, and in that moment, I didn't feel rage or satisfaction, just finality. I told her, quietly, that I'd changed the locks, that she'd wanted space, and I'd respected it. Her face shifted, disbelief, then panic. I could see her trying to piece together what had happened. Maybe she hadn't expected consequences. Maybe she thought I'd wait forever. Then her eyes darted toward the parking lot behind me, the space where her car had been. And when she realized it was gone, she froze. It was the first time I'd ever seen her speechless. I didn't say anything more. I just watched her standing there, caught between anger and guilt, and felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. It was over, not in a dramatic, cinematic way, not with shouting or tears, just done. For the first time since that text message, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. She stood there for a long moment, frozen, the kind of silence that burns more than shouting ever could. Her suitcase still beside her, her hand resting on the handle like she didn't know whether to pull it closer or leave it behind. Her face was tight, not sad, not angry, just caught, like someone who suddenly realizes the world doesn't revolve around them anymore. I didn't gloat. There was no satisfaction in that moment. Just this strange calm that washed over me, the kind that comes when the worst already happened and you're too tired to fight it anymore. She finally turned and walked away. I watched her through the peephole for a second, her figure moving down the hall, the sound of her suitcase wheels echoing faintly. Then it was quiet again. the kind of quiet that feels like the final page of a chapter closing by itself. I sat back down on the couch and just stared at the wall for a long time. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't heartbroken. I was hollow, but in a good way, like the part of me that had been constantly spinning, wondering what I'd done wrong, replaying conversations, analyzing her tone, had finally stopped. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of missed calls. Most were from numbers I didn't recognize. Then I saw a message from a mutual friend, Julia, one of Lena's close ones. She texted, "Hey, what's going on? Lena says you locked her out. She's freaking out." I ignored it. There was nothing to explain. A few hours later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number again. This time, curiosity got the better of me. I answered. It was her sister. She didn't even bother with small talk, just launched straight into it. Her voice was sharp, indignant, full of that protective energy people get when they think they're defending the victim. She said Lena had come back from her trip to find herself locked out and that I had no right to do that. I listened quietly, didn't interrupt. When she paused, I simply said that Lena had ended the relationship herself, that she'd told me not to contact her, that she had, in fact, left to spend a week with her ex-boyfriend. There was silence on the other end. You could almost hear the gears turning. Then she mumbled something about misunderstandings and hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, realizing how absurd it all was, how people can twist reality to make themselves feel better. By noon, Lena texted me for the first time since the message. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't apologetic. It was practical, demanding to know where her car was and how she was supposed to get her things. For a second, I almost laughed. The audacity of it. I typed and deleted my response twice before settling on something simple, that the car was gone because it was legally mine, that she could arrange a time to pick up her belongings. I'd leave them boxed up near the front door when she was ready. I didn't press send right away. I just sat there, thumb hovering over the button, wondering when exactly love turns into logistics. Then I hit send. The phone didn't ring again. Over the next few days, I started the process of sorting her things. It's strange how much of a person lingers even when they're gone. Their scent, their energy, the little notes they leave behind. I'd find her hair ties in random drawers, her favorite mug still on the counter, her sweater folded on the back of a chair. I didn't throw anything away. I folded, packed, and labeled each box carefully. It wasn't out of sentimentality. It was out of respect for what we once had, and for myself. Every box closed. Felt like another step toward peace. I think that's the part people don't talk about enough. The quiet healing that comes not from grand gestures or dramatic closure, but from mundane acts. Taking your time to untangle a shared life piece by piece until it's just yours again. A week passed before she came by to pick up her things. I wasn't there. I left them outside my apartment door early that morning, neatly stacked. A short note on top that simply said, "Take care." I didn't want to see her. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need to anymore. Later that evening, when I got home from work, the boxes were gone. The hallway was empty. Just like that, the last physical trace of her had vanished from my life. For the next couple of days, things felt eerily calm. Too calm, maybe. It's funny how, even after something ends, your body still expects the chaos, the arguments, the texts, the emotional noise. When it's gone, the silence feels unnatural. Then, on Saturday morning, I got a call from my mother. I hadn't told her everything, just that Lena and I had broken up and she'd moved out. But somehow, word had gotten around. Parents have this invisible network, I swear. She asked if I was okay, in that soft, cautious voice mothers use when they're afraid of pushing too hard. I told her I was fine. She paused, then said something that stuck with me. She said, "Sometimes peace doesn't come from forgiving someone. It comes from no longer giving them the power to hurt you," and for the first time, I really understood what she meant. That night, I sat by the window with a glass of whiskey, lights off, city glowing outside. I thought about how different everything felt now. Quieter, emptier, but cleaner. I thought about how much of myself I'd lost in that relationship without realizing it. How I'd become so used to walking on eggshells, trying to keep things balanced, that I forgot what it was like to just be me. Lena had been charming. That's how she pulled people in. Beautiful, confident, spontaneous. Everyone loved her, especially at first. But underneath all that, there was this unpredictability. the kind that keeps you guessing where you stand. She'd disappear emotionally for days, then come back as if nothing happened. Always with some new reason, some new explanation. Looking back, it was never really about needing space. It was about control. She needed to feel wanted, to have someone waiting. That's why she told me not to contact her. Not because she needed time to think, but because she wanted to see if I'd still be there when she got back. She wanted safety and excitement at the same time. And when she couldn't have both, she created her own rules. I had played along, like most people do when they're in love. But that night, sitting there in the dark, I finally saw it clearly. Not with bitterness, but with understanding. Sometimes people aren't villains. They're just broken in ways that end up breaking you too. Over the next few weeks, I started rebuilding my routine. I picked up running again, cleaned the apartment top to bottom, rearranged the furniture, partly for a change of energy, partly because it felt therapeutic. I even repainted one of the walls a lighter color. It's weird how much something simple like that can shift the way a room feels. Every once in a while, a random memory of Lena would drift in. A song, a scent, a street we used to walk down. But instead of pain, there was this quiet acceptance. I didn't block her on social media. I didn't need to. Eventually, she stopped showing up in my feed altogether. It was like the algorithm understood before I did that she no longer belonged in my world. One afternoon, about a month later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a short note, her handwriting unmistakable. She wrote that she didn't expect forgiveness, but she wanted me to know she was sorry. She said she'd made mistakes, that she didn't handle things right, that she'd been confused. I read it twice. Then I folded it neatly and placed it in the back of a drawer. I didn't feel anger or sadness or even closure. Just calm. Maybe that was forgiveness in its own quiet way, because sometimes letting go isn't about saying goodbye. It's about realizing you already did. The thing about endings is that they rarely happen in one moment. You think there's a clean break, a fight, a message, a slammed door, but really, endings happen in layers, one piece at a time, quietly, until one day you wake up and realize the story's already over. That's how it felt in the weeks that followed. Life didn't suddenly become beautiful or inspiring. It was still full of those small, awkward moments. Seeing her shampoo bottle I'd missed while cleaning, hearing a song we used to play in the car, passing by the cafe where we'd spent lazy Sundays. But instead of hurting, those moments started to feel distant, like memories that belonged to someone else. I started to realize that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering differently. At first, I tried to fill the silence, meeting friends more often, going out, pretending I was fine. But there's only so much distraction can do. Eventually, you have to sit in the quiet and face what's left inside you. So I started spending more time alone, not in that lonely, heavy way, but in a way that felt grounding. I'd take long walks around the neighborhood, listening to music or just letting my thoughts drift. I'd cook dinner for one, light a candle, sit at the table without my phone, and just eat. Simple things. It's amazing how ordinary moments can start to feel like a kind of therapy when you let them. A few times, I caught myself replaying everything, wondering if I should have done something differently, maybe seen the signs earlier, maybe confronted her before she ever left. Maybe if I'd fought harder, things would have gone another way. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized love shouldn't feel like constantly having to prove your worth. It shouldn't make you feel small or uncertain or afraid to ask simple questions. And somewhere along the way, that's what it had become. When Lena first came into my life, she was like a burst of sunlight. She had this energy. Spontaneous, magnetic, impossible to ignore. Being with her felt like living in fast forward. Everything was exciting, unpredictable, intoxicating. But what I didn't see back then was that her intensity came with chaos. She thrived on attention, on movement, on being the center of every story. And I became the steady ground she stood on when the world got too loud. I mistook her instability for passion, her unpredictability for depth. It's a trap a lot of us fall into, confusing drama for love. I remember one evening, months before everything fell apart, we had this quiet dinner at home. The lights were dim, soft music playing, wine glasses half full. It should have been peaceful, perfect even. But I remember this strange emptiness between us. We were talking, smiling, but it felt mechanical, like two actors performing a script we'd already memorized. Looking back now, I think that was the beginning of the end. There's this point in relationships where the silence between two people changes. It stops being comfortable and starts feeling heavy. And when that happens, no amount of words can fill it. I think she felt it too, but instead of facing it, she ran from it. Maybe that's why she texted what she did. I need space. It was easier than admitting she'd already left emotionally. The vacation with her ex wasn't the cause of our breakup. It was just the symptom. The visible proof of something that had already been dying quietly for months. And in a strange way, realizing that helped me let go. One evening, I sat on my balcony, the sun setting behind the rooftops, the air warm and still. I had a cup of coffee in my hand, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't thinking about her. Not in a bitter way, not even in a nostalgic one, just not at all. My mind was still. That was the real closure. Not an apology, not a dramatic confrontation, just peace. It's funny, the things you notice when you stop focusing on what you've lost. The way the light hits the floor in the morning. The sound of your own laughter. The fact that you actually like spending time with yourself. Some nights, I'd find old pictures, us at concerts, hiking trails, her smiling at me through blurry phone lenses. And instead of deleting them, I just scrolled through slowly, smiled, and moved on. Those moments were real. They happened. They were good, until they weren't, and that's okay. People come into your life to teach you something, even if they don't stay. Lena taught me what I don't want to settle for. She taught me that love isn't about waiting for someone to choose you again and again. It's about choosing yourself when they stop. And the more time passed, the more I started seeing that this whole experience, as painful as it was, had actually pushed me closer to myself. I started doing things I'd forgotten I loved. Painting again. Reading before bed, instead of scrolling endlessly through social media. Going on solo hikes. I even took a weekend trip by myself. No destination, just my car, some snacks, and a playlist. Driving through open roads, windows down, wind in my face. It felt like breathing again. There was a moment during that trip, somewhere between small towns and endless green hills, when I realized I wasn't thinking about the past anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was just present, and that's when it hit me. Healing isn't about forgetting someone who hurt you. It's about remembering who you were before the hurt. Months later, I ran into Julia, that mutual friend, who texted me after the whole lockout situation. We hadn't talked since. We bumped into each other at a cafe, and after the usual small talk, she told me that Lena had moved to another city. Apparently, things with her ex hadn't worked out. She was single now, trying to find herself. I just nodded and smiled. There was no bitterness, no curiosity, just an easy kind of indifference, the kind that comes when a story is truly over. Julia looked at me for a second, like she wanted to say something else, maybe defend Lena or apologize for taking her side, but I just told her I hoped Lena was doing well, and I meant it, because I had already let go of the version of me that needed closure. And when you finally stop chasing explanations, life starts making sense on its own. That night, after running into Julia, I walked home through the quiet streets, the air cool and the city lights shimmering around me. I felt this deep sense of gratitude, not for what happened, but for what it gave me. It taught me that peace isn't something someone gives you. It's something you decide to claim for yourself. So, if you're watching this and you've ever been where I was, lost, heartbroken, blindsided, I just want to tell you something I wish someone had told me. You don't owe anyone endless forgiveness. You don't owe them the version of yourself that kept waiting. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for both of you, is to walk away quietly and never look back. It won't feel heroic. It won't feel cinematic. It'll just feel quiet. And then, one day, that quiet will start to feel like peace. And peace is everything. I don't know if Lena ever found what she was looking for. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. But I found what I was missing, myself. And that's something I'll never lose again. Have you ever been in a relationship that ended not with a fight, but with silence? Do you believe people like Lena ever really change? Or do they just move on to someone new and repeat the same patterns? And have you ever done something that finally brought you peace, even if others didn't understand it at first? Thank you for staying with me until the end. How would you have acted in the protagonist's place? Write your thoughts in the comments. More fresh and controversial stories every day on my profile. like, and subscribe to this channel.